What is up guys, Kartak here, and today I'm here within the Digimon deck profile. Today we'll be going over the MirageGaogamon deck profile from BT-13. So with the support from BT-13 and EX4, Gaogamon can be a deck on its own now. You don't need to rely on the Leomon package for it to be pretty decent. So without further ado, let's get right into the deck profile. So for the Digishamons, we're running 4 of the Wanyamons. Again, this is one of the best Tamas for blue right now, just because of its easy condition to fulfill and draw power. So run this at 4. Next, we're going to be running 2 MirageGaogamons. So you can run this at either 2 or 3, depending on what your locals is like in the matchup. But I'm running it at 2 right now, just because I feel like there's other cards in this deck that I would like to run more of. So what this card does is on evolution you can bounce Digimon back to their hand, and then for every 4 cards they have in their hand, you get +1 memory. And then if your opponent, when this card attacks, if your opponent has 9 or more cards in their hand, they have to put cards back to the bottom of their deck until they have 8, and then you can unsuspend this Digimon. So it's really good against deck with large hand sizes. So again, if it depends on what decks are in your area. If you're playing against deck with a lot of hand size, then you might want to run this at 3. If not, 2 is fine number. Next, for the level 6s, we're running 3 of each of the MirageGaogamons. So 3 from the one from BT-11 and 3 from the one from BT-13. What this one does is, on evolution, you can bounce a level 5 or lower Digimon to your opponent's hand, and if you didn't bounce anything with this card's effect, you can bounce a card from their security to their hand instead. And then on both turns, whenever a effect adds a card to their hand, you can get 1 memory for every 4 cards they have in their hand. So this card's very solid because it's on both turns. So if they have any effect that adds cards, you can use this to kind of stall their turn. So very nice. And this one has evade, and it also has a tamer bounce, which is also pretty good. And then on both turns, if any card is added to their hand, then you can play a Thomas from your hand. So it's also pretty solid. Mainly this is here to help you get your tamers out. If you are setting up for your burst mode and you don't have a tamer out on the field, this will help you do that without spending too much memory. And the evade is also pretty nice. So next we have 4 of the MirageGaogamon from BT-11. This card on evolution gives you blocker and extra 2k attack if your opponent has for every 4 cards your opponent has in your hand. So you can potentially buff him up to be a pretty decent attacker, and then you can use it to attack. And since you have other cards that help you bounce things on evolution, you can reset it. So pretty decent. I think this is the best MirageGaogamon that you can run in the deck right now. We're also running 2 of each of the BT-13 and EX4 MirageGaogamons. So on attack, if your opponent has 4 or more cards in their hand, this card's attack cannot be this Digimon's attack cannot switch targets. So it'll prevent them from using cards that can help you switch targets, like blockers or those other annoying effects like Analog Man and whatnot. And then we also have this one that helps you bounce level 4. So if your opponent has any blockers on the board or anything that you want to get rid of that's choking memory or whatever, you can use this to bounce it back to the hand. And all their inherent effects pretty much just let you unsuspend your Digimon. This one is on attack. If your opponent has 8 or more cards in their hand, you can unsuspend. This one is whenever a card is bounced to the hand, or added to the hand, you can unsuspend. And this works on both turns, so this is pretty good. And this is also on both turns you can unsuspend. So depends on what you kind of want. This one might be more helpful when you don't want to unsuspend right away, but it'll guarantee your unsuspend, pretty much guarantee your unsuspend on attack. So yeah. Next, for the level 4s, we're running 4 of the EX4 Gaogamon. On evolution, you can bounce level 3. And Air skill lets you get one memory when a card is added to your opponent's hand during your turn. So not as good as the other ones, but still pretty good. We're also running 4 of the BT-13 Gaogamon. This one just lets you play a Thomas from your hand if you don't have Thomas on the field already. And on both turns, if your opponent has 8 more cards in their hand, this card gets plus 1000 DP. So it helps you hit bigger numbers if you're planning to attack your opponent's Digimon. We have a card that gives you jamming in this deck, so you don't have to worry too much about crashing in security. Last, for the level 4s, we're running 3 of the Gaogamon from BT-11. I think this one's not as great as the other one, just because his inherent effects lets you bounce level 3s, which is good against Floodgate cards, but not as good against other stuff. I'd rather have extra DP or the memory boost, or the memory gain. So, yeah, also its basic effect on attack is not as great as well, just because it's your opponent having 8 cards in their hand early game is not as likely, since if you're attacking with this, you're probably going to do it early game. Of course, there are situations where if you have the Thomas on the field, like this one, you can just suspend this card to unsuspend it. So I just feel like this card's not as flexible as the other ones so far, so I'm running this at 3. Alright, next for the level 3s, we're running 4 of the Gaomon from EX4. On play, both players get to draw 1. Not super great unless you're bricking, just because you might not want to let your opponent have a hand draw too early. So there's that. But the memory gain is pretty good, so we're just keeping it for its inherent skill. Next is your Searcher, the BT-11 Gaogamon. Lets you search for a tamer, a blue tamer, as well as a Gaogamon card. And then you can trash the rest. And next we have 4 of the Vmon from BT-11. This card is a flexible slot. You can run Gaomon if you want, but I kind of like the fact that I can search for a tamer, and the inherent skill is pretty decent. You can play if you play a tamer, you can get 1 memory back. So this effectively reduces the cost of all your tamers if you have to hard cast them, and if you are playing them with effects like your Gaogamon, not this Gaogamon, the tamer playing Gaogamon, or your MirageGaogamon, you're gonna get a memory refund, so that's pretty good. But yeah, this slot is flexible. If you guys want to run Floodgates, you can run Floodgates. If you guys want to run the other Gaomon, you can run the Gaomon. But yeah. Next for the tamers, we're running 3 of the Memory Setter Thomas. If you don't want to run the Nicola, you can run him at 4. But I kind of like the Nicola in this deck. So also, whenever your Gaomon or Gaogamon attacks, you can rest this tamer so that both tamers get to draw 1, which will proc most of her effects. So he's pretty good. Next, we're running the Thomas from BT4. So this one's on play. You get a draw 1, and its actually main skill is actually pretty good. If your opponent has 8 or more cards in their hand, you can rest this tamer to unsuspend one of your Gaomon cards. So very good. Not Gaomon, Gao cards with Gao in its name. So you can unsuspend Gaomon, you can unsuspend Gaogamon, you can unsuspend MirageGaogamon, any Gaogamon or Gaomon. If it has Gao in its name, you can do it. So pretty good. Next, we're running 2 of the Nicola. So this one gives your beginning of your main phase, you can give one of your Gaomon or Gaogamon jamming, and then whenever an effect is added to your opponent's hand, by card effect, you can rest the tamer to get 1 memory. So he's pretty good. Of course, he's not a Thomas, so you can't use this to burst mode. But I think his memory gain and giving jamming is pretty good, especially since there are a lot of Roll Knight decks running around. So there's a lot of high DP cards in the security. So if you don't have a way to buff your VP, this is one of the other ways to get around your Digimon crashing. So, yeah. For the tamers, with the options, we're running 1 Ice Breath. So Ice Wall, this will help you slow down Roll Knight decks if you know they can go for game next turn. This will stop them from going game for playing their Omnimon, at least for 1 turn, which might help you out. So Ice Wall is very important in this current meta, in my opinion, just because it can just hard stop a Roll Knight deck from going game, at least for 1 turn. Next, for the blue memory boost, running 2, just to help you get more memory, and I think running 2 is fine. But if you want to run other options, you have some removal options you can run. You can run the new Full Moon Meteor Impact if you need it. But I think I don't really have space for that, so I'm running 2 blue memory boosts and 1 Ice Wall instead. Honestly, if you don't want to run this or you don't have access to Ice Wall, you can run the Full Moon Meteor Impact if you want. But yeah, tamer wise, you guys can see I'm only running 6 of the Thomas, which some people might have a problem with because it might stop you from going to burst mode, which is one reason why I'm running 2 of the burst modes instead. But yeah, it's up to you guys. This deck is somewhat flexible. There's a lot of slots in this deck that you can adjust the ratios for, or outright just replace. But I feel like the main core of the deck and the main playstyle is pretty much just try to give your opponent as much hand as possible, and then you'll be able to get a lot of memory on your own turn so that you can combo into your Thomases and just keep attacking through multi-attacks. But I feel like for a blue deck, it's not as fast as some of the other options we have right now. But this is a fun deck to play, and it can be a little bit more defensive just because whenever they add a card to their hand, you can potentially just end their turn. So yeah, this is a little bit more defensive as a blue deck, but not the fastest deck. So that's pretty much it for this deck, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys want to support the channel, feel free to use the other links down below. But yeah, more Digimon content coming soon, and yeah, I think I'll be doing either a Belphamon deck next or a Rosemon deck next. If you guys want to see Jespon as well, you guys can let me know. I didn't have it in the poll last time because there's not enough space. It only lets you put 5 options at a time, but Jespon is definitely another deck that I can do an update for. Just let me know. Leave a comment down below. This is Karataku, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!